So yeah, it was awesome. Like I learned so much of that process of, how do you fund an event like this? How do you pitch to those C-level executives when you're, like fresh out of college?
Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have a special entrepreneur on. It's Jocelyn because I really appreciate the work that she's doing in Charlotte, in the tech industry, as well as just really breaking down some barriers here and really encouraging a lot of people to step up and step out of their comfort zone. So welcome to the show, Jocelyn.
Thank you so much for having me, Turo.
Awesome, awesome. Now, Jocelyn, you and I met when I was working at Passport, and one of the things that I saw on your LinkedIn is you were going to be part of a pitch project. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of your background and then what it was like kind of prepping for a pitch for your business?
Yeah, so I feel like I just kind of fell into entrepreneurship. It wasn't something I was looking for. Um, I My first job out of school was doing software development for a consulting firm. I didn't have a computer science degree, but I landed the job, and I immediately felt like I was in over my head. Um, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me, so not only was I kind of behind from that having that technical background ahead of time, but it was fresh out of school. You're just kind of like really nervous about a lot of things. I don't have a lot of confidence. So I started to look for some communities, especially women in tech, to kind of find a support system. And I was also new to Charlotte. I had grew up in the Raleigh area, so didn't have a ton of connections here. But what I found when I was looking for communities was that there really wasn't a lot. Not much that was unified. There were a couple like meetup groups that met pretty regularly, um, but no big like conferences. Nothing to kind of like bring the community together. Um, so I'm not really sure what compelled me to just kind of go for it and create that thing, but that's how I founded Fleurix. Um, didn't really know what I was doing. I've never planned a big event like that before. Just also didn't know what to expect. Like I said, I didn't have a really strong network in Charlotte at the time. But word got out somewhat organically. Most people that I pitched the idea to were really excited about it. How can I help? It seems like a lot of work. We're really glad that you're taking ownership of that. That's what this community needs. So it really took off, and we sold out our first event. We had around 450 people show up
Wow.
for, and that was March 2019. Um, so yeah, it was awesome. Like I learned so much of that process of, how do you fund an event like this? How do you pitch to those C-level executives when you're, like fresh out of college, and how do you even get that meeting in the first place? So
Mhm.
yeah, really great experience. And unfortunately, we were scheduled to have our second event March 2020 this year, but we've decided to postpone because of all the coronavirus stuff.
hmm Okay, so tell us a little bit about that, the one in 2019. So the Fleurix event, what was that like, and kind of what could people expect if they were going to the Fleurix event?
Yeah, so it was a 2-day event. I've been to a couple conferences, and honestly, they were really boring and kind of stuffy. So I really wanted to be more creative with it, and I was also trying to operate on a small budget as possible, right? Because I ended up funding the event personally, so
Oh,
it
wow.
was a sole proprietorship. So if we lost money on it, that's coming directly out of my account, right? That was just like the easiest way to get the business going. Um, so we ended up having the conference at Camp North End, which is we were one of the first events there at this scale, but it's a really cool hub for a lot of startups. They've been expanding it a lot. It's a really unconventional venue. Our conference was at a repurposed Ford factory. Um, um, building Model T cars.
Wow.
So yeah, not a convention center, not a hotel. Like literally, the room had nothing besides electricity. Didn't even have heating and cooling. So the day before the conference, I took the entire day to bring in, uh, rugs, lighting, like literally building stages from scratch.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but the other thing that was important to me with the actual content of the conference was trying to cater to a bunch of different roles in technology and also having it be beginner friendly. Um, it's no secret that there's a lot of underrepresentation of women and especially women of color in the tech industry. So I really wanted people to leave the event excited about tech and to know what opportunities existed, especially here in Charlotte. Um, well, I'm a developer, and I think when people hear tech, they immediately think about coding, and they are like, "Oh, I'm not good with computers. Like, that's not for me." They immediately write it off. But there's so many other roles in technology. There's graphic designers, there's marketers, there's salespeople, there's um, business people, there's people who are innovating all these products. So I truly believe that these days there's a role for everyone in tech, no matter what your background is. And I wanted people to like kind of open their eyes to those opportunities in tech and get excited about it.
Mhm.
And lastly, I think the coolest part about Fleurix was that it was so local. Almost every one of our attendees lives and works in Charlotte or the greater Charlotte area, as well as the company sponsors. So weeks after the conference, months after the conference, I heard people posting about the connections that they made. They're still getting coffee. I landed this job because I went to this event.
Wow.
And that was very impactful and motivating for me, that this event that I had no idea how it was going to go. I wasn't even sure like my clear vision for it. Ended up having this huge impact positively here in Charlotte.
Awesome. So when it was time to talk to some of the senior executives about, hey, this is the project, this is the vision, what was some of the reception that you got from the senior executives when you told them about it?
Yeah, honestly, the first couple I blundered, I rambled, and they were like, "Oh, what do you have so far? Who do you have on board?" And I was like, "I was hoping you'd be my first." Um, but the reception, a lot of them were willing to take kind of like small bets. It helped that my expenses were pretty low, so my sponsorship tiers to get involved, I was able to make them super cheap compared to a lot of other events that companies typically sign up for. Um, so a lot of times they were like, okay, well, we'll sign up at like the smallest level, which is often like $500. A lot of times, like, at that level, they can just write it off on their credit card, no questions asked. We'll show up, we'll see how it goes for the first year. Um, so I got that a lot. Sometimes I was turned down, like we plan to attend, like send us volunteer information. We want to see what the event's like, and then we'll invest from there. A couple companies were like, yes, I'm all in. Let me sign up for your highest tier. How can we support you? So it was kind of a range of reactions, but I don't think a single person was like, this is a bad idea. We don't want to see this happen. You're crazy for trying to start this.
Hmm. Gotcha. Now, after doing that first event, what were some of the ideas that kind of came up as far as, this led you to thinking like, hey, we should make it even bigger next year, or should we do like other small events?
Yeah. One of the important parts in starting the conference was because there were already these monthly meetup groups that existed. I really wanted a differentiator, which is why I went for a conference format, rather than trying to make it more frequent. I really didn't want to detract from any of those groups, but rather partner with them. So um, all the groups that I could find that are kind of in the same like women in tech space, we gave them like booths at the conference so that they could kind of spread their messaging to the attendees. Um, sorry, remind me the question.
No, it's just kind of what were your thoughts about the ideas after the first conference as far as where to take it next?
Yeah, so I mentioned that we sold out, which honestly didn't expect. So we had around 450 show up, but we had 200 people on the wait list.
Oh,
And
wow.
this was with very minimal marketing. Like, I don't think we spent any money on ads. It was all just word of mouth. It was like, posting on meetup.com, asking people to spread it within their companies, but we didn't really invest that much in the marketing, and we still had such a positive reception in terms of like interest in attending. So that really spoke volumes to me that, like, this is something that company would like to see, and let's see how big we can make it, right? And like within reason, we were still going to enforce like a attendee cap on this year's event. I think when we postponed the event, we had probably like 700 to 800 people signed up. So
Wow.
huge growth already, but we were like already starting to get to that point of like, okay, we should probably like cut it off soon so that we aren't in over our heads, because we just wanted to make sure that the quality of the event was still there. But yeah, the biggest thing was, just how positively it was received. So it was kind of like, well, why not make this like accessible to as many people as possible?
Awesome, awesome. So now, if you have new, or I guess, updates or whenever the next event gets scheduled, where can people find you, whether it's website or social media?
Yeah, so our website is fleurixconf.com, and our social media handles are pretty similar. I think you just Google Fleurix, Fleurix, and Charlotte. We should be one of the only links that pops up. Um, Funny story about the branding, which is another lesson I learned. I picked the word Fleurix because I really liked the word flourish. So kind of the core behind the core mission is like, not only do we want more women to be in the industry, we want them to be thriving and flourishing.
Wow.
Um, so a mentor of mine that was around when I was trying to come up with the name of the event was kind of like, just pick a word that you like and make it French. So that's kind of what happened. Um, and I did a little bit of Googling just to make sure that it wasn't like, a really common brand name. I wanted to be unique. I saw some like foreign sites. I didn't click on any of the links. Flash forward to when I've like already committed to this brand. I've started marketing it, and one of our potential sponsors at Microsoft was like, "Hey, can you send me the conference link again? Because like I don't think I have the right one." Turns out that like another Fleurix website is like a international adult site. So yeah, lessons learned about branding. Make sure you click on the foreign links too.
That probably was, I guess it's a good thing that that sponsor stayed around.
Yeah, I think they were a little bit understanding that we were, not as polished as as some of the other events with bigger budgets.
Awesome. So what else did you learn about kind of that marketing and that branding as you were, like I said, promoting this event that sold out the first year and was definitely building steam before the pandemic and the quarantines happened?
The biggest thing that I noticed was just the value of an organic kind of salesperson. So people that went to the first event and had a great experience, we didn't have to ask them to spread the word about it. They were already sharing their story on LinkedIn. They were resharing our posts. They were some of our like biggest followers and promoters. Um, and rather like, we tried running like a, Instagram ad, Facebook ad, whatever, with like kind of minimal results. Like besides, you can see how many people view it, but as far as like click through rate, I don't think it really added a lot of value. Um, but we kind of decided to invest more in that like organic promoter. So um, if we knew of a big company in Charlotte that didn't have a strong attendee representation last year, we would find someone that we knew in our network and ask them like, hey, would you mind sending this out to your women's group or to your colleagues? Like, can you invite a couple friends? And that worked really well. Just the more organic, like hey, here's my experience with this. I think this would benefit you. We also had one of the values of the conference is making it accessible to as many people as possible. So I've been to events that cost, hundreds of dollars, if not like thousands of dollars. And I'm fortunate because I have a company that will often like cover that cost. But if I'm not in the industry, there's absolutely no way that I'm going to pay $100 to go to a tech event when I'm not even sure if it's a good fit for me, right?
Yeah.
So our tickets were $35, and anytime we kind of marketed the price, we also tried to include messaging of like, hey, but like we have financial assistance available, and we would love to work with you. We want you there. So just reach out to us if you or someone else could benefit from that. So we took that and to different communities to try and make sure we didn't leave anyone behind in pushing the tech community forward. A lot of times we would be like, hey, we have X amount of free tickets to give away. Who do you know that could benefit from this opportunity?
Okay, nice, nice. So, one question that I like to ask every guest that comes on the show is, in the process of building this project, other than some of the marketing lessons that you talked about, what was one or two things that you learned where you were like, wow, these two pieces of wisdom are definitely golden?
One of the big ones was just kind of not sure how to phrase it, but finding ways to kind of pay it forward, looking for ways to help others out, even if it's not necessarily like going to help you in that moment. Just I think when you have that kind of like positive intent and you're really genuine with lifting other people up, whether or not that individual that you helped out is in a position to help you back, like other good things just fall into line. So like from the get-go, like this was never a for-profit venture. This was something that I just took on. I saw a need of the community and I just acted on it. And I think that kind of like that story resonated with a lot of people, which is why I think it blew up so quickly. But from that initial step of like, hey, I'm gonna like take on this extra work, I'm gonna do something for this community, people went out of their way to help me out. And then in turn, as I got more of a platform, I was getting more recognition through speaking engagements, a couple like local news articles, like just finding more ways to lift other people up. Even like, at my day job, like I'm very intentional about the way that I observe like my colleagues and finding ways to give kudos, like it goes a long way to like just give really specific feedback, like positive feedback, and like, hey, someone was watching me, someone was observing. So like both the little actions and the big actions of like, hey, like I noticed when you signed up for the conference, you said you're looking for a job. Is there any help that I can give to you within my network of making introductions? So, like those kind of small things, big things, they both, I think it's the right thing to do, but it also paid dividends for growing Fleurix, for growing the business.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, awesome. Well, definitely, Jocelyn. We are definitely cheering on what you have going on with your business. Like, yeah, we definitely ordered our ticket for the conference this year, but looking forward to the next event. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, appreciate it. Looking forward to listening to this and some other episodes.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, be sure to click the subscribe button and follow us on all social media platforms as the Business Talk Library.